So, you've taken the step to become a successful business person. And no matter what part of the business world you end up in, you want to make sure that you can perform the best you can to add value to your organization. And think about it, business people run every aspect of every organization. So, even if you're a doctor, you're managed by business people at the hospital. If you're a great lawyer, you're managed by business people that work for the law firm. If you're in a manufacturing facility, you make sure that the goods are produced, packaged, shipped, and delivered to the happy customer. And you'll soon realize that to be a successful business person, you really need to have a really good understanding of what information is or what data and information are. And in order to do that, we need to have command of various tools that will help us manage that information. Because in this day and age, we have so much information to manage and data to convert into information that we cannot just do it ourselves. But one of the most important tools in the world and the most widely available is called Microsoft Excel. And we're going to take a journey through learning from very basics of Excel to a little bit more complex to give you the building blocks that you can use to do pretty much anything that your organization requires you to do. And the situation will be like this. Your boss asks you to do some work. You can either do it inefficiently and take a long time and not perform well, or you can use tools like Excel and within Excel pivot tables, which is a separate set of tutorials you'll see later. You'll use tools like that to make your job efficient, do it accurately, relatively quickly, with high quality, and well, impress the boss. And I'll tell you, if you impress the boss, guess what happens? You get promoted, you get pay increases, and more importantly, you get to keep your job. So let's get started with the basics of Excel. Now, we are assuming that you don't know anything about it, that we are starting from scratch. So first of all, you must have Excel somewhere. Double click on the Excel icon or search for it, and the first thing you're going to see is this screen. Now, you could use one of these templates that are available to you, and there are thousands more on the internet, but don't. Until you know exactly what you're doing, try not to go to any sort of template. We are going to double click on this blank workbook, and you'll end up in the main Excel screen that looks something like this. Now there's a few more buttons across the top. We'll get to those when we get to those, right? So let's start from the very basics. Excel was designed for a lot of different people, business people, including accountants, mathematicians, economists, scientists, and they've designed the universe, the entire space of Excel to be quite large. Now don't get concerned about that because we don't need to use all of it, and there are a lot of different functions up here that you might not recognize. So until we get to it and we see a need for it, don't worry about them, okay? A lot of them are higher end. We can explore them later on. So let's start from the very basics. This is called the Excel universe, okay, which is a space from this box here, and we'll call each box a box or a cell. And this cell happens to be in column A, row 1. So take a look, A, B, C, D, E, F, all the way to Z, and then starts again, A, B, A, C, all the way to Z, Z. So there are 650 columns across, and that would be silly for us to use all of it. You want to use as many columns as it takes to get the work done. You don't want to be scrolling back and forth all the time, right? And what's going to fit on a piece of paper for you? So generally, we limit the number of columns we go over to the right. You're going to see that shortly. These are called rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on. I don't know how many rows go all the way to the bottom. It might be 6 million, it might be 60,000, might be 600,000. It doesn't matter. That it just means more pieces of paper when you print it out. But if you're doing 6 million records of anything in Excel, that's kind of strange because now you really need to have a really good software system like SAP or PeopleSoft or something like that. But on each row, you generally have one record. So, for example, if we had an employee, that row would be information for the one employee. If this was a product, it would be information for the one product, or in our case, we'll put a number of a truck here, and all the information about that truck would be in one row. Right? So these are columns, these are rows, and where a column and row meet, that's called a cell, and the address of this particular cell, this is important, is D5. So if you click in it, you can see the cell address here. Now Excel is going to know that cell as simply D5. Doesn't matter what's in it, it just knows it as D5. Okay? So let's start. Let's click on this cell here. That's called A1, right? Right now there's nothing in it. You can have nothing in it. There's nothing wrong with that. You can put words in it. or you can put numbers in it. And by words, I could include characters as well. So let me demonstrate. I can put a name, right? I could put a something like that if I wanted to, or I could simply put a number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, when you put numbers in there, Excel gets excited because Excel is about calculations. You wouldn't use Excel to type up an essay, for example, would you? You'd use Microsoft Word. So we can use words and numbers in the same space here. So let me just delete that. And I'm using the mouse to go forward and backwards. You can also navigate using your arrow buttons. And if you double click in a cell, it gives you access to editing it. And you can also edit things up here. Okay, so very basics. Now, let's start. In A1, I'm going to put something. And I'm going to put the title of our company, which is Jupiter Inc. Let's do Incorporated. There we go. Now I'm going to press enter. Now take a look. Two words, Jupiter Incorporated, are both in cell A1. So let's click, and you can see up here that's in A1. There's nothing in B1. You could put something in B1, for example, good, but then the word incorporated gets hidden a little bit, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that you can't see it. So why use the cell B1 if you don't need to? Now, if you had to use that cell, that's okay. Just move your mouse between the A and the B. Do you see up here? And either double click really fast so it makes that column as big as it needs to be to fit what's in it, or you can manually stretch. Just click your mouse, go left and right, and you can manually stretch the column back and forth. Okay, and I should tell you, let me just delete the word good. See, I should tell you a column could be as little as 0. You see the width up there, or it could be the maximum 255, I believe, right? Certainly you don't want to leave it that big because that's just a waste of space. Let's make it about as big as it used to be right there. So I'm not going to put anything in B1. Let's move over to D. I'm going to put a title, 2016 to 2017 units sold. Okay, there we go. Now you could just click on any of these words, use a bold, italics, underline. You could also change the font color here, and you can also change the font and the size over here as well, using either this or the up and down, right? So make it bigger and smaller. That's up to you. You can also center, left justify, right justify the words, and we'll leave formatting to that for now. Okay, so let's go over here to A3. Now notice I'm not doing anything in A2. Leave it blank. It's okay. There's plenty of cells. There's millions of cells. Let's not be cheap about it, right? So let's go to A3. I'm going to put the word product. And let's go to A4, and I'll put the word name. So my column heading for whatever goes here is going to be called product name, right? So let's type some product names in. Blue Vex, Flex10, Intex, or Flow, and Urtex. So these are different products that our company sells, right? These are just the names. And quite often another department might give you this data. You can copy paste it in here, and I'll show you later on how to import the data as well. But right now it's pretty simple. We're doing some typing, right? So let's put a heading here, year 1 sold. So these are the number of units that we sold in year 1. Okay, we'll do 2,000, 1,200, 1,000, 1,500, and 800. Oops, and 800. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to take these cells and I'm going to do something to it. So let's determine the cell price. So take a look. We sold 2,000 units at what price? At $67, $32, $45, $99, and $15. Okay. Now let's do total sales. All right, we're going to do some math now, a little bit of calculation. And generally, if you think about it, don't be afraid of math. I get a lot of people don't like the word math. It's okay. Math is everywhere anyways. Look, if you go shopping, you have to calculate a discount. You get 20% off. You have to calculate the tax or how much money you get back. Listen, if you don't want to get ripped off, you're going to need to know those basic calculations, right? So generally in business, short of hiring a consultant that knows math, we go back down to about grade 5 level math, add, subtract, divide, multiply, and a little of order of operations. You'll be surprised how much you could do with those little things, right? So let's have a look. First of all, I'm going to show you how to fix these numbers, okay? Now, these are just units. They're not dollars, they're not percents, they're units. But I don't want to leave them like that. I want to put a little comma every 3 digits. It's going to look a lot better. So I'm going to show you that. It's called formatting. I'm going to highlight these cells. Now take a look. See the white plus sign? Click on the first cell, hold the mouse button down, and just highlight down. See? So whatever you do is going to happen to all of these cells all at once, right? Go up to the top, and there are three buttons: dollar sign, percent, and comma. Now, comma is what we want, right? So we're going to click it. Now, take a look. You get the comma. Looks a lot better. But you also get all these decimal places that we don't want. So that's these buttons here. This will decrease the decimals, and this will increase the decimals. So take a look. You click this button, it increases and decreases, and that's what we want to do, okay? Move the column back. Now the other way to do it, you can always go to this box and choose number formatting. So comma is in fact number, okay? General will undo any formatting that you've ever done. So take a look. If I click general, it undoes all my formatting. I'm going to put it back. Comma, decrease the decimals. Got it? Now cell price, I'm going to highlight these, and these are actually dollars. So I'm going to click the dollar button, or you can go to general, currency, or accounting. And I should tell you accounting is a favorite way to do it, right? Not currency. Let's do accounting, and it will give you the dollar signs and the zeros. So let's get rid of the zeros. Now just a little demonstration of why we do currency versus accounting, okay? So take a look. I have two values here, 0 and 1.5. Now I'm going to highlight them, and I'm going to format them for currency. Take a look what happens. The dollar sign touches the number, and zeros become zeros. But if I highlight these and choose accounting, or click this button here, which is accounting, look what it does. The dollar sign stays all the way to the left, nice and lined up, and the zeros become dashes. In business, generally, we don't want to see zeros. They get in the way. We don't want the dollar signs to touch the number, because if it does, sometimes we think it looks like an 8 or maybe a 5. We can make a mistake, right? So let's get rid of this, and I'll just change that back to general. So we did do this for accounting, right? Now, this is important. Let's do our first little bit of a calculation. The logic for total sales is, think about it, the number of units you sold times or multiplied by the sell price. We sold 2,000 units for $67. So it's 2,000 times 67. Now in Excel, you have to start every calculation or formula with an equal sign. If you don't have an equal sign, it's not going to work. So let's make that a little bit bigger. There we go. Okay. Now, equal sign, and the idea is this. Look, 2,000 and multiply in Excel is the star button, which is you can press Shift 8 times 67, right? 2,000 times 67, or you can do 67 times 2,000. It doesn't matter, right? And the answer is $134,000. Now, the problem is if you type in these numbers, and by the way, I just double clicked in here, then what if I change the 2000 or I change the 67? I have to remember to go back in here and change it, and that's a no-no. You never want to do that. Excel is a type of thing that once you set it up, you don't ever have to make changes like that again. So here's what I'm going to do. Okay, this is the most powerful thing in Excel. I'm going to tell Excel not to multiply 2000 by 67. I'm going to say multiply this box by this box, because what's in the box can always change, but the box will not change. So this one is B5, this one is C5. Okay, so take a look. B5 times C5. It's the same thing, 2000 times 67, but this time we're using just the boxes, okay? Now I actually typed in B5 and C5. I'll show you an alternate way of doing it. Equal sign, you can just click on B5 multiplied by C5, and my answer is the same. But here's the beauty of it. Look, if I change the price, next year I want to sell it for $71, take a look. That number automatically changes. If I found some customer returned 1,000 units, now I only sold 1,000, that number automatically changes, right? So I'm going to put my numbers back. Good, perfect. So let's format this, make it 0 decimals. That looks beautiful, right? Now here's the thing. I've done this number for BlueVex, and I want to do it again for FlexTon. Now FlexTon would be, of course, B6 times C6, and so on and so on. But if you had thousands of different products, you're not going to do each one of these manually. So we can actually copy and paste. Let's take a look. This is perfect. We want to copy this so it becomes B6 times C6, B7 times C7, all the way to B9 times C9 by the time we get down here, right? Here's what you do. You click on the cell. You could copy, Control C, like this, highlight these cells, and Control V to paste. And that works. That's extra steps, right? Nothing wrong with that. And you can use right click, copy, paste. You can use the copy paste buttons on the top right, copy paste buttons on the top left, or the easiest way to do it is this. Look, take your mouse, move it to the bottom right corner. You see that little box down there? Move your mouse over it, and you're going to get a little black plus sign. And this is the only time you will see this plus sign, okay? So click your mouse, hold it down, and drag all the way to the end. Or you can double click really fast, and it will copy that down. And if you had 10,000 products, it'll do it for you 10,000 times. And look, perfectly fine formulas. B5 times C5. By the time you get down here, it's B9 times C9. Perfectly good to go. Let's make the column look a little bit shorter. Perfect. Okay. Now let's move on to one more. Let's do total returns. Now these are the number of units that were returned by the customer. Okay. This one returned 22, 18, 10, 5, and 3. So not too many returns. And we're going to figure out the percentage of returns. Okay. So here's how you look at it. We sold this many units. The customer returned this many units. And what percentage of this is this? So look at it this way. Sure, 22 units were returned. That's fine. It's a large number. But then we also sold more. So how do you compare the 22 versus the 3 in relation to how many was sold? You do a percentage. So out of 2,000 units, what percentage was 22? So the formula on that is it's like your mark out of a test. You got 22 out of 2,000, so it's 22 divided by 2,000. And general rule, most of the time it's a small number divided by the large number. It's out of. Okay? So let's do a little formula here. Equal sign. We want to do E5 divided by B5. So E5 out of B5 were returned, right? Let's press enter, and you will get a 0. Think about it. The answer is a decimal. It's a very small number. It's like 0.011. So it's a 0 simply because you don't have any decimals. So let's change the decimals, and look, that's the whole number, okay? Just like that. Now, it is a percentage, so why would you want to leave it like this? You could multiply this by 100 to move the decimal place over, and the answer is 1.1, but that doesn't look right, right? So let's take the 100 out. What you want to do is take this formula, that's the answer, and click the percent button, and then make it maybe 1 or 2 decimals. Okay, let's do 1 decimal. So it's 1.1% of all of my units were returned. Copy that down. And now it doesn't matter how many units were sold. This gives you the actual percentage of units that were returned. And we can now sit down and try to explain, were they returned because of defects in the product, defects in packaging, the customer just didn't like it, didn't they sell, are they old product, are they expired? We can start doing analysis on those. Okay. Now in the next video, we'll go further on with this, and we'll do a few more calculations and some more formatting.